posted that I was going to be here at 7:45, and it didn't show anywhere. So I thought I'd get on here and help you guys with chapter 6 of Principles. Trying to get all situated in here because I've been traveling all around, making sure I could get to you guys. But unfortunately, when you're traveling, it's kind of hard to have all your equipment and carry a book like this. So anyway, we are on chapter 6, lesson 2 of landlord-tenant laws, and we are on page 159. We're skipping 158 because it's just a chapter review of what we're going to talk about, so we don't need to do that. If you're wondering what book I'm working out of, it's Walt Hubbard's 15th edition of Principles. So if you're just thinking about getting your real estate license, this is a really great book. I hate to pump it up. I don't get anything out of it, but this is a great book to read through because it talks to you like you are roughly about 10 to 14 years old, and super easy to read. And plus I worked out of it for the classes I'm doing, and you're able to follow along. So let's just get rolling. Hi, how you doing? Good evening on a Friday evening. Can't believe I'm doing this on Friday evening, but I was in Vegas all week for the Inman convention, and I learned so much. Now, one of the things that I do when I'm teaching classes, I have what my business partner calls golden nuggets. And golden nuggets are things that I just throw in there about the real estate business that might help you remember something on the exam or might help you be more successful in your real estate career. And one of the things I'm going to throw out there right now is, if you are one of our students, if you passed your real estate exam because of us, because of California Real Estate Professionals, I'm sorry, it's not California Real Estate Professionals. That's the name I wanted for my school. I mean, for my real estate office. California Real Estate Trainers. If you passed your real estate class and your test through us, because we have thousands of people who have taken our class and passed. We only know of 2 students that didn't pass because we follow them all the way through. If you're one of them, we're going to have a special class. Or if you're somebody that reaches out to me because you're one of my YouTube followers, we are having a special class. We're making it as cheap as we possibly can make it to help you guys jumpstart your real estate career. If not jumpstart it, if you're a real estate agent currently or you've had your license for a while and you're just like, what the hell? I can't seem to just get started. Once I get started, the snowball will start rolling and I'll be an amazing real estate agent. Well, lucky thing is I was at the Inman convention all week and I learned so many ways to jumpstart your career. So we're going to do a class on the 17th. That's in 2 weeks, I think. And it's going to be $24.95. And the only way that you can get to that class is through me and through our school. And that class is going to teach you everything you need to know. I was in a meeting, and the guy that was speaking was the #2 agent in RE/MAX in the nation. And I'm trying to connect with him to talk to him more about his methods. But in his class, oh my God, we learned everything you need to know. The man sold 300 houses. I think it was his 3rd year of real estate. So I learned all that. We're going to share it in my class. The class is only $24.95, and it's going to be on August the 17th. It's only going to be 2, maybe 3 hours, and it's going to teach you how to get moving forward in real estate. If he could sell 300 homes in 1 year because of his method, I've learned his method. I'm going to use it. I'm going to tell you what to do. I spent a lot of money going to the Inman's convention because they had speaker after speaker after speaker talking about what you have to do to make your real estate career work, because this man is no better than anyone else. He just was determined and he set goals, but he did a lot of other things, but they were all easy. So like I said, that's that. So hi, how you guys doing? You're in Brazil. Oh my God. What are you doing over there? Oh my, it's so beautiful there, isn't it? Anyway, so we're going to get started on page 159. We're on landlord, tenant, lessor, lessee. So remember, OR is for the person who owns the home. EE is for the person who is renting or leasing. So it has different types of estates that it talks about. We have the estate for years, which is definitely on your real estate exam. There's the estate from period to period, which is usually month to month. And then there's estate at will and estate of sufferance. You have to know all these for the California real estate exam. So I'm going to go through what it teaches you right now. So estate for years. An estate for years is super easy. All it is, you guys, I'm going to make everything so simple for you. An estate for years is a defined period of time. It could be Airbnb from Monday to Wednesday. That could be an estate for years. It does not have to be a year or more to be an estate for years. So please keep commenting, because if you put the comments in my comments, what I do afterwards is I go in and I look at the comments and I answer your questions. Oh, that's so nice that you use Pedro. You are so sweet. Pedro says I look beautiful today. I got to tell you, my eyes feel red. I didn't do my normal makeup because I was just dragging from getting home yesterday. It was literally from 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m., Monday through Thursday, back-to-back speakers, all about real estate, all about how to be successful. So I'm going to take all that and condense it and teach it on the 17th of August on a Zoom class. So if you're interested in it, we said it's only for the people who have taken our class. And I'm going to say wink, wink for my followers. How about that? So we're going to do it, but we want to get people who haven't gotten through this through, okay? So we're going to keep going. So it says an estate for years, a lease for a predetermined amount of time. So it's already predetermined. You know exactly how long it's going to be. And like I said, it could be an Airbnb. It could be from September of 2021 to January of 2022. It does not have to be years. I know that's crazy for the estate for years. It's just a defined period of time. So it says a conveyance of an estate and real property, such as a lease, to someone for a certain length of time is called a demise. An estate for years, I don't know why they have to put that in there because we're talking about the estate for years. The estate for years is an agreement in advance between the lessee and the lessor for the use of the property for a fixed period of time. As stated earlier, a lease is a contractual agreement to possess and to use the property as agreed from a certain date. So it must be in writing and signed by the lessor. So notice what it said. It must be in writing and signed by the lessor. So remember, the lessee, the person renting, does not have to sign the lease. Only the landlord has to sign the lease. And you want your landlord to sign the lease, and you want that in your hand because that gives you right of possession. So that if something goes wrong and somebody tries to kick you out, you're like, hey, here's my lease, and it's signed by the lessor, the landlord, the person who owns the house said I could live here. I'm paying them rent for possession of the home. And if it's a estate for years, it's for a predetermined amount of time. So it goes on to say, I'm going to see where I was. The lessor is, again, the owner, sometimes referred to as the landlord, and the leasee is the tenant. Proper screening of a tenant's application requires non-refundable fee up front to $30, up to $30 to be paid by the tenant. Well, I know this book is very current, so I'm interested in how they got the $30 number, because one of the best places to go ahead and rent to your clients, and you don't have to go through any of the major companies to get there. It's just rentspree.com. It's RENTSPREE, RentSpree. And what RentSpree does, I'm going to see what you guys are saying because I haven't said anything yet. It says, I think that in love he wants to marry me. Pedro wants to marry you. It says, even if you're kind of sleepy. Aw, thank you guys. You guys are so sweet. I'm really sleepy. It took a lot for me to get my makeup on and do this because I was like, it's been a long day, long week. But you know what? I promised you guys I'd get on as much as I possibly could. So I'm working on it, right? All right, so now they're talking about credit scoring and how to make sure that your tenant's going to be a good tenant. So what I use is I use a system called RentSpree. And so if you're going to rent somebody's house, you should fill out RentSpree, because what happens is if you're looking for a home and you're putting applications in with all these places, every time you put an application in, it messes with your credit, depending if it's a soft hit or a hard hit. And I'm going to tell you right now, I just got one new credit card that I applied for, and I only did it because it's Southwest Airlines and I want miles. And it hit my score for like 43 points. That's huge. I mean, I went from a good high 7s credit score to a low 7s credit score because all I did was apply for a stupid credit card. So when you're working with a buyer or you're working with a tenant that's going to rent, keep that in mind. If it's just an inquiry, if they have a recent inquiry, it drops their score a lot. So the other thing is that if they fill out the stuff through RentSpree, you only have to fill it out once. So you fill it out through RentSpree, and then what you can do is the landlord can go into RentSpree and request to see your information. The hard part is how do you, if you're just a mom and pop landlord, or you're somebody who really doesn't know how to read a credit score or a credit report, how do you know if they're a good tenant? So let's see if this helps us out with that at all. So it says, the higher your credit score is, the better chance you have of renting. A credit score is a 3-digit number. I never thought you had to tell people that. It's a 3-digit number, okay? Assigned to consumers based on your credit history, used by the landlord to qualify a tenant, also used by the mortgage company to qualify you for your loan. Credit scores are often referred to as FICO scores. That stands for Fair Isaac. By the way, if you're going for your mortgage licensing test, that question's on the mortgage test, the national mortgage test. It's what does the FICO score stand for? It stands for Fair Isaac Corporation, the Fair Isaac score, okay? And that was first company to develop the mathematical credit score based on a selection of criteria in the credit report. The following are the systems now used. So Experian uses the Fair Isaac system. Experian is the one that has the Fair Isaac Corporation one, and TransUnion uses Empirica, and Equifax uses Beacon. Now what you have to know is if you're renting, I don't know how well the landlords look at the credit scores, but when you're buying something, what they do is if there's 2 people buying and you each have 3 credit scores, let's say the husband's, so first of all with the credit scores, it goes, you have 3 scores, so 1 from Experian, 1 from TransUnion, and 1 from Equifax. So what happens is they take the middle score. So they throw out the high score, they throw out the low score, and they take the middle score. And that middle score, they take it, let's say that your husband's middle score is 720 and your middle score is 680. They're gonna take the 680. So they take the lowest of the middle scores when you're buying a home. Now, I don't know, depends on the landlord of how they're gonna look at it. But the FICO score, which still dominates the industry, ranges from 300 to 850. Any score under 650 is considered a high risk and subject to higher interest rates. And anything over 720 qualifies for the best interest rates. Well, in the mortgage industry, it's really 740. Everybody keeps saying 720. If you don't have at least 720, you're going FHA instead of conventional. So in addition to the consumer's right to receive a free credit report, from each of the 3 national credit reporting agencies once a year. So by law, any of you can get a free credit report. I just said that. Free credit report once a year, and that's to check on if there's any identity theft going on with your credit report. And that's creditreport.com. It's not annualcreditreport.com. It's not freecreditreport.com. It's creditreport.com, I believe. If I'm wrong, I'll double check and let you guys know. So each of them have to give you a free one once a year so that you can check regarding identity theft. So agencies are required to correct any inaccurate information in a timely manner. So if there's something on your credit report, that's the whole reason you get a free credit report once a year, is so that you can check and see if there's anything on there that's not right. Especially if you're somebody who has, maybe your dad has the same name as you. Like my dad's name was Richard Gunzik and my brother's name was Richard Lewis Michael Gunzik. And because he had the same Richard Gunzik, a lot of their stuff got commingled. So you want to make sure that all the stuff on your credit report is your stuff or your client's stuff. So they're supposed to fix inaccurate information in a timely manner and subject to legal recourse if inaccurate information continues to be reported once they are made aware of the mistakes. So this is, they have the different sites for them, so I'm going to say them real quick. So it's www.experian.com/consumer/index.html. Experian is www.transunion.com. Oh, I'm sorry. The first one was Experian. The next one's TransUnion. And then there's Equifax, which is www.equifax.com. And then there's FinTech, and FinTech is www.fintech.com, and that's FinTech information. So going on to the top of page 160 is, so it says, so number 1 was estate for years. Number 2 is estate from period to period. So an estate from period to period is called periodic tendency, and it's renewable each period. So an estate from period to period periodic tendency that continues from year to year, month to month, week to week, or any other designated period of time. This period to period tendency, which is automatically renewable, is called rental agreement. So a rental agreement is a little bit different than a lease. A lease is usually year to year, but this says it could be year to year. So it just depends on if you write it up on a lease or a rental month to month. So depending on what they're going to ask you on the test. And then the other thing is leases at the end of a year. Usually leases are like a year or 2 years or 5 years. Usually what happens at the end of a lease is they roll into an estate from period to period, which is monthly, month to month. Okay. So all the ones that I do, and I do them on the CAR, the California Association of Realtors lease form. I do it on that. At the end of a year, it rolls into month to month. Okay. So it says, as previously stated, a rental agreement is an agreement between the tenant and the landlord for a continuing period of time, usually month to month. Rental agreements do not expire. How about that? That's good, right? They don't expire, although people think that they do. Usually, I'm trying to see where it says they don't expire. I lost where I was. And there it is. Notice must be given by one of the parties. So when you have a month-to-month lease, either the landlord or the tenant has to say, has to give a written notice that says, okay, in 30 days we're moving. So they have to give you a written notice and let you know when they're canceling the tenancy. So depending on who's canceling, 30-day notice, okay? So written rental agreements have become the most common used in real estate agreements in the United States. They are used frequently when renting apartment agreements, duplexes, houses, condominiums, and other types of rental property. The California Association of Realtors, which we call CAR, has residential leases or a month-to-month rental agreement, the form that covers all the basic conditions desired in such contracts. And actually the next page in this book shows you, I think it's the current lease agreement. It doesn't say on here if it is or not, but most likely it's the most current one that they could get. So you could look at what it looks like. And if anybody wants any of the forms, what I can do is I can get you forms and show you them. I just cross out my name at the bottom because if you're a licensed agent and you give people free forms, they can use them. If your name's on there, you can get in trouble, especially because your name's on the form. Anyway, estate at will. So an estate at will can be determined by at will of either the lessor, so it can be terminated. Sorry, I'm being sidetracked because everybody in this household was doing nothing all day because we were all being lazy. And then all of a sudden I go on video and guess what? Everybody has to make noise. So all of a sudden my contractor shows up and he's banging on my wall. So anyway, an estate at will can be terminated at the will of either the lessor or the lessee and has no fixed duration period. So by California statute, the party involved must give a notice of termination. Since a periodic tendency is automatically created when a landlord accepts rent, there is no true estate at will in California. You got that? No true estate at will in California. An estate at will can be terminated by either the lessor or the lessee. Estate at sufferance. I always joke about this one because I say that the landlord's suffering because a tenant didn't move out. But let's see how they say it. The estate at sufferance occurs when a lessee who has rightfully come into possession of the land remains in possession after the expiration of his or her term. In other words, the tenant does not leave after the expiration of the lease. Now, this happens a lot. Sometimes it's good and sometimes not so good. So like the people that are living in my Irvine house right now, they had a 1-year lease. They are going on 3 years. And every year they just stay there and they say they don't contact me and I don't bother them. I just ask them, you know, do you guys think you're going to be leaving this year or you want to keep going? And they just say, we want to keep going. We'll let you know when we want to move. And they absolutely love my house and they treat it amazingly. And rent is always paid on time. And I love that they're there. And their rent is lower than normal because if you're good to your landlord won't raise your rent. And, you know, don't even start me on landlord-tenant things in California because I don't know how our legislation or our legal people, our lawmakers, do what they do to landlords. It's so wrong in so many ways. But anyway, so an estate at sufferance, as they say, an estate at sufferance does not, estate at sufferance does not require a notice of termination because the expiration of the lease is automatic. So if you know that your lease is supposed to be up, you're supposed to move out. If the landlord accepts any payment of rent, the lease reverts to a periodic tenancy. Minimum requirements of a lease or rental agreement. As long as there is intent to rent the property, the creation of a lease requires no particular language and can either be written or can be oral. I wouldn't do an oral agreement. A lease or rental agreement must at a minimum include these 4 items. The length of time, how long they're going to lease it. 2, the amount of the rent. 3, the names of the party. And 4, the description. You can use the legal description or the address of the property. So length of time, amount, name, and description. And then from page 161, 162, 163, all the way over, let's see if it goes, yes it does, to 166 is a lease agreement in this book. And like I said, if you guys need any help getting any kind of the paperwork that you want to see for purposes of learning, I would be glad to just text me and send me, hey, I'd like to see what a purchase agreement looks like. Hey, I'd like to see what a lease looks like. Whatever form that you may need, or ask me what kind of form you might need, just put it in my comments and I'll be happy to help you. So we're on page 167 in chapter 6. So leases for 1 year or less do not need to be in writing. So 1 year or less, that's on the state exam, do not need to be in writing, but it makes good sense to always have everything you do in writing. Under the statute of frauds, any lease lasting longer than 1 year, so 1 year and 1 minute, 1 year and 1 day, from the date of signing must be in writing, and that's in the statute of frauds. Okay, so remember that because that's on the state exam too. It's in the statute of frauds that if it's longer than a year, it has to be in writing. So you need to really know that. The reason I'm saying that so many times is when I teach people, I want to make sure they understand stuff that they need to know for the real world and for the California real estate exam. So California courts have held that in the event the lease is written, it must be signed by the lessor. It does not have to be signed by the lessee. So remember that the landlord has to sign the lease and you have to have a copy of it in order for you to have possession of the property. They're not looking for your signature. It is not necessary for the lessee to sign the lease. It has been delivered and accepted by the lessee. So if the landlord, the lessor, gives you a lease, hands it to you, and you do what it says in the lease, okay? It says your deposit's $5,000 and your monthly payment's going to be $7,000, and you give them $5,000, you move in, and you give them $7,000 a month. Then your lease is a lease because you did what it says in the lease, okay? And because you did what it says in the lease, you're liable for the lease. So the payment of the rent and possession of the property is sufficient acceptance. Hotels, motels, and other types of lodging fall into the category of leases, even though the duration of use may be for a much shorter time, and eviction or termination is handled differently for these daily or weekly rentals. So a lease, now it's going to say, so what this book does is I teach you the paragraphs, and then at the end of each section, what it does is it shows it in bold print. So because it shows it in bold print, that's really, really good. It says, I'm not very good at English, but my way is sorry. Oh, it's okay. It's okay if you're not good at English. We have helped so many people get their license. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. I'm trying to read what you guys are saying at the same time. You guys are way too nice. All right, so a lease for more than 1 year must be in writing. That's what I said. And signed by the lessor. That's the owner of the home. But if the lease is not signed, but the tenant moves in and pays rent, he or she is bound by the terms of the lease. Okay, so right and obligations of the parties. In addition to minimum requirements, a number of contractual matters between a landlord and a tenant should be considered before entering into a lease. Okay, the importance of these factors increases as the time covered by the contract increases. Certain points that should be covered are duration of the lease, amount of the rent and manner of payment, security deposit, assignment and subleases. You always want to put that you don't want somebody to sublease your property, because that way if somebody rents your property for, let's say, $1,500 and rent goes up and they rent it out for $2,000, they're making the profit that you should be making. So you don't want somebody to sublease your property. But on the other hand, If you're a tenant and you're paying $1,500 a month and then you get a job transfer and it does not say that you cannot sublease, then you can rent that property out and make some money off of it. How about that? Liabilities of injuries and repairs, conditions and provisions of the lease, termination of the lease or rental agreement, and renewal or extension provisions in bold type. Duration of the lease. There are certain statutory restrictions on the terms of certain leases. Here we go. This one's actually on the state exam. Agricultural leases cannot be leased for more than 51 years. You need to know the 51 years. Property situated in a city or town cannot be leased for more than 99 years. A mineral oil or gas lease cannot be longer than 99 years after work begins. And a minor or incompetent can possess property only for the time that a court has approved it. And the last thing on page 167, and then we'll start on page 158 tomorrow of chapter 6. The last thing is the amount of rent. Don't even start me on that one. I'm going to bite my tongue because sometimes we have what's called rent control. Now, I'm not really quite sure why a senator or assembly person or our lawmakers can tell us how much we can rent our house for, because I honestly didn't see them help me pay for my down payment, pay for my property taxes, pay for my homeowner's insurance, help me do the repairs on my home. Haven't seen them do any of that, but yet they can tell me how much I can rent my property for. That makes zero sense to me, okay? So the amount of rent. Rent is the amount of money paid for the use of the property. It's important to state both the specific amount of rent and when the rent is to be paid to the landlord. With a periodic tendency, if the rent is to be paid in advance or any time other than the end of the term, it should be stated in the agreement. By law, and if you have the book, I would highlight by law, rent becomes due only at the end of the term, unless the lease agreement says otherwise. Pre-printed lease forms normally specify that rent is due on the first day of each calendar month. So what they mean by that is when you rent, you pay and then you live. And then you rent and you pay and you live. Okay, so but when you own, you live and you pay backwards. So when you rent, you pay in advance, and when you own, you pay backwards. And then we are going to start on page 168 tomorrow. If any of you guys have any questions, hi there, Carla. If any of you guys have any questions, please, please, please put it in the comments. Please give me some thumbs up. I know you're all subscribed, which is awesome. And like I said at the beginning of this class, for students in our class who have taken our class, and for those of you who are my loyal subscribers, we are doing a class on August the 17th. This is to give back to our people that have taken our classes or have learned from us. We're going to do a class that's all about how you get business without paying for leads and without doing all that horrible stuff that you don't like doing, you know, like door knocking and cold calling. So if you want to be in that class, reach out to me in the comments. It's only going to be $24.99, so 25 bucks. And we're going to do it on August the 17th. It's only going to take 2 to 3 hours out of your day, and you're going to learn stuff that's going to take you up the ladder of success in anything you're doing. It says, hi Sharon. It says, I can't see it. Gotta put my glasses on. I have the book. Oh, yay, because this is a great book, isn't it? I mean, Darla, this thing works. I would say study this the most, and then for your examination review when you go to take the state exam. Our class, we're doing one this weekend. Tomorrow we start at 8:30 in the morning. If you sign up for that class, you really should be there by 8:25. And the classes are pretty small, so it's a good time right now to jump on and learn as much as you can. We allow our students to take the class up to 3 times. So you could take it and then get your test date and take it again. Some people just take our class once and they pass. Right now, we're looking at everyone who's taken our class, and I do mean everyone who's taken my California real estate exam class, except for 2 people, except 2 out of over 1,000 people now have their real estate license. So I think that's pretty darn cool. That's why we're offering to everybody to be in the class on the 17th. You're always supporting me. Aw, how sweet. Thank you for watching my videos. Always put comments too, because I love comments and I answer them, and thumbs up and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching me, especially on a Friday night. And right now I'm going to go make some videos. I'm going to talk about that class that we're offering on the 17th, and I'm going to put it on my TikTok, which is SS, like Sharon Suzanne, SS Butler 8. That's my TikTok. My Instagram is SharonButler.repro. Anything else I have to tell you? I think my Facebook is just Sharon Suzanne Butler. And you know what I'm going to do? I actually am paying to get a website. Separate website from my school. Let's see what you're saying. Darla, or it's Dara. So, what time will you connect tomorrow? Oh, what time do we start tomorrow? Tomorrow we start at, tomorrow we're doing the class, which is the real estate exam prep. And it starts at 8:30 in the morning and it goes all the way to 5 in the evening. And then it goes again on Saturday and Sunday. But that's a class that you have to register on. And actually our website's really easy to find. It's www.passwithsharon.com. So it's just pass, P-A-S-S, with Sharon.com. So tomorrow, all day Sunday. And hey, I'd love to see you guys in my class. Spread the news. I'm helping you guys. And my personal assistant, well, she's actually my business partner. We are both on the class the whole time. And during that time, she is answering everybody's questions. And we're going pretty slow. And right now, with the small classes, you're able to talk in the class and we're able to help you. So even if your test is not for a while, you definitely want to be in class. So I'd love to help you. Reach out to us. Have an amazing rest of your evening. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow in class. Bye.